All right, we're off the edge, episode 20. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Cameron Lynch. And today we are going to be continuing with our series. We're going to be ranking the top 10 wide receivers going into the 2023 NFL season.
Woo!
So I'm very excited, Cam. You know, the
Yeah.
running backs was tough. I thought
Yeah.
the quarterbacks was a little bit easier. I don't think I realized at the time how easy we had with the quarterbacks.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes. That's it. You call it a day after that. No, running backs were tough though, because there's a lot more running backs. Guys get hurt, people switch in and out, but most teams have one primary quarterback to go to. But as we found out last year, quarterbacks are currency. So, hey, we'll see who emerges this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll be talking same format, giving our top 10, giving, some praise to some of the honorable mentions because there's a lot of them. The receiver position, the running back position, we had a lot to talk about with that. So before we dive into that, I just want to let you guys know that BetOnline is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines and the latest matchup reports for this year's NBA playoffs. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season as we have you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs, from basketball, MLB, NHL, golf to UFC and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. Cam, this was hard for me, so I'll give my top 10. You give your top 10, and then we'll talk. Well, let's first talk about the honorable mentions before we give our top 10. So I had Devontae Smith. I feel like he was so close to making it, Cam. It is really hard. This guy just continues to get better and better. And I think he'll probably be on this list next year, if you want my honest opinion. He's just so incredible. But, great route runner, can help you over the top. Amon-Ra St. Brown, talk about great route runner, can help you anywhere on the field, makes catches near the sideline, that toe drag swag. But he also has the ability to win after the catch and, create yardage and make guys miss. Tyler Lockett probably deserves to be in the top 10, but it's so hard that I couldn't put him in there. He is one of the most underrated receivers in all of football. The guy is incredible. I mean, what he's able to do, I have him ahead of DK Metcalf, but he's also a guy that I think deserves credit. Metcalf was almost automatic when it came to the red zone last year, and really after kind of a down year a little bit, and he hasn't quite lived up to the incredible hype that some people had. He's definitely worth more than his second round, pick, which was ridiculous. But I have expected more out of Metcalf, although I thought last year we were starting to get that Metcalf to come alive. Then Deebo Samuel. He's honorable mention because I don't think he's a great receiver, Cam. I'll say that right now. I think he's a great football player, right? I think he does a great job with, when the ball is in his hands. He makes guys miss. He runs guys over. He's like a running back, right? But as far as being a precise route runner, he's not that. As far as a guy that is going to catch the ball with his hands, have natural hands, he's not that. He's kind of a body catcher, right? He kind of rounds off his routes, doesn't create a lot of separation, but he's so hard to bring down, and he's so damn, explosive in the open field that's why he's an honorable mention, and obviously he deserves, mention. And then DeAndre Hopkins, I just don't know what to make of him at this point in his career. I mean, he got caught cheating last year, came back, looked really good, but there's still guys that I just think have done more, that didn't get caught cheating, first off, but did more last year, didn't miss half the season. I trust more, and so that's my honorable mentions right there.
Yeah, I like that, Jake. You mentioned some great ones. You talked about Devontae Smith, right? Anybody that ends up in the Super Bowl, we talked about the running backs the other day. Anyone that ends up in the Super Bowl deserves to be mentioned, deserves to be shown love. So Devontae Smith, like you mentioned, he has been balling out. Terry McLaurin, Jake, for me, right? Seeing him ball out at Washington, he didn't make this list this time, Jake. But next year, I do see him as one of the sleepers to step up into this list. He's someone that's really showed out and showed up for his team. I think a vocal leader, not only just his gameplay, Jake, but also his leadership ability. I think when Eric Bieniemy first went to the Washington football team, he was someone he met with, right? So he's the leader of that football team. He's a juggernaut, and I think he will be the face of this league at some point, right? Whether it be a couple of years from now, but guys like him are going to be the one. So I love Terry McLaurin there. Jake, going back to the 49ers, you talked about Debo, Brandon Ayuk. Jake, he's someone that he's more of a sleeper. Jake, I know honorable mention, but he's more of a sleeper. Someone that it's like, oh, okay, like this guy, he's catching the football. You got Kittle, you got Debo Samuels, but Brandon Ayuk is someone that I just want to recognize rather than honorable mention, but I want to recognize and put the league on notice. Like he's someone that's coming up and don't sleep on him as well. Jake, someone else you mentioned, not you mentioned, but Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, someone who's a sleeper. I think someone mentioned about this, but Doug Baldwin, right, for the Seahawks, he didn't get enough love while he was playing. And guys like Tyler Lockett is in a similar vein of that. Okay, that was you. Yeah. That was you. Okay.
So, I mean, I think there was already a tweet, but I kind of attached myself to that dialogue because I always felt like Doug Baldwin was like almost unguardable, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they've caused the Rams problems. Ever since we've been following the Rams, right? You've been following the Rams for a long time. Doug Baldwin's been causing problems. The Rams killer, right? And Tyler Lockett, he is the Rams killer, the Ram breaker. So he's someone. And then Jake, I want to give two more, Jake, to the Chargers group, right? You got Keenan Allen, someone who shows up and shows out at all times. When it comes to being healthy, that's something that he has to work on and being available. But he's someone that always steps up. Keenan Allen does, and then. Jake, Mike Evans. Mike Evans is someone else. I know I mentioned two on the Chargers, but I'm going to jump over to Mike Evans, actually. Mike Williams, he does a good job with the Chargers. He shows up and shows out. But Mike Evans is someone who I think doesn't always get that praise. Being with the Buccaneers, the Bad News Bucks, I played for him. He's always had 1,000-yard seasons, but never had gotten the recognition I think that he deserved. Finally, Tom Brady got there. He's gotten more love, won a Super Bowl. So he's good, but he's someone I also want to recognize and show that, hey, next year he could easily be on this list as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody that probably has been on this list multiple times. I think it's really just hard, Cam. You have 21 receivers, I believe was the count that I came up with, that went over 1,000 yards last year. So it's like, I mean, it's getting to the point. Obviously, 1,000 yards isn't as impressive as it used to be because you play an extra game now. It's 17. So we also have to take that into account. But, you look at the league, and I guess we'll go into the top 10. I had number 10, Terry McLaurin. So you had mentioned him like he was on your honorable. He's on my list. I think McLaurin, he's a few yards away from having. He's another kind of Nick Chubb. He's almost had 1,000 every single year. He's been consistent. He hasn't had a top 25 quarterback, arguably, in my opinion. I think Carson Wentz is probably the best quarterback he's ever played with. Wow. I mean, like Carson Wentz is probably the best. When you look, it's like it's either him. Heineke, Howell. We don't know what Howell will be. Maybe ends up being something, and that would be good for McLaurin. But as of right now, who has he really had? Kyle Allen? I mean, no. I think what he's done has been incredible. And then on top of that, I know they went out and, they go out and get Curtis Samuel. And we saw Samuel's emergence right before the contract year. He gets paid. Curtis Samuel can't stay healthy, and he hasn't exactly blown up like I expected. So I'm not about to say Curtis Samuel's taking double teams on, he's not making Terry McLaurin's life easier. And, you have other guys like that, Logan, I totally forgot his name, the tight end. You have other guys like that, okay, they might have been a threat, but they couldn't stay healthy, And so I think that's Logan Thomas. That's a thing, So then I have him there. I think that's going to be debated, but I like him there. I think that's a good spot. Yeah. Number 9 is Jalen Waddle for me. I mean, when you look at the speed factor, you look at what he can do. He was my number 1, prospect coming out when, he left college, and I had him ahead of Jamar Chase. And people were like, that's crazy. Like, how do you do that? I'm like, Jalen Waddle is not a guy to sleep on. Just because he was hurt, like this guy can play.
That's it. That's it.
Yards after the catch, all of that.
He tried to play in the national championship, being hurt.
And they're like, man, we get it. Like, it's okay, But he's been a blessing for Tua. Tua's put him in a good position to succeed, and I think he'll continue to rise up the board because it's yards after the catch with him, it's explosiveness with him, it's yards per reception with him. But as he gets more nuanced as an NFL, receiver, there's going to be more to his game than just that. So, right now I think he's 9 here, but he could rise. Don't count him out. Number 8, CeeDee Lamb. I don't think I realized, because overnight it seems like CD Lamb went from, yeah, he's a really good receiver, to holy hell, this guy almost had 1,400 yards last year. Like, he is the guy, you know? And I think he doesn't really get enough credit. You know, I think when you look at CD Lamb, it's funny. I just said a guy on the Cowboys doesn't get enough credit. But when you think about it, though, you know, CD Lamb, you know, he's a guy that has just continued to make his presence felt. He's gotten better. And the whole Dak Prescott quarterback situation, he didn't have him the whole year last year, still made an impact. And when I look at him, first off, the last 2 years, those seasons, he's top 10, Cam, in EPA per route run. EPA is expected points added. So when you look at, you know, CD Lamb, a top 10 wide receiver, when you combine all of those seasons that these guys had in 2021 and 2022, he's top 10 in that last year's performance. He continues to get better. I like him at 8, you know, a guy that can help you after the catch. Number 7, Jamar Chase. Okay. Yeah. Jamar Chase could be higher on some people's boards. Wouldn't have an issue with that. My issue with Chase is that right now I think he is a bona fide deep threat. I think that's what he is. I don't think he has like this really well-rounded game right now. Now, that means he's going to get a lot better. He's a lot younger too than some of these guys in this list. So he's going to move up the rungs. It's not me hating. It's me being a realist. Plus, he's got Joe Burrow. Number 6, A.J. Brown. Played in the Super Bowl, immediately goes to the Eagles, and things just change, man. You know, he was playing with the Titans. They didn't want to pay him, so they traded him to the Eagles. And you could argue, I mean, he was the big thing that kind of turned the Eagles around. I mean, that move kind of signaled, because, I mean, you've been in a locker room where a team has made a move before. You know, it's kind of a sound wave, you know, a shock wave that hits in a good way, you know? It's like you drop the nuke, but in a good way, and now you're feeling the shock wave. Now you're feeding off that emotion. You know?
Yeah, and it's not the Aaron Rodgers or the Tom Brady. It's not that much of a shockwave, but he was one of those like step right below. Like, this is not the creme de la creme quarterback, but this is one of the better receivers that you'll get to score touchdowns, period.
Well, it was funny, Cam. So this guy ran a 4.5, and he was a teammate of DK Metcalf, who ran like a 4.3.
Yeah. Does
this not show you that, like, just because a guy ran really fast doesn't mean everything? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean DK can't be better than AJ someday, but he's not right now. AJ is a pure, all-around, really talented receiver, and the speed works in the NFL. Okay, he ran a 4.5. I think we forget how freaking fast that is in the NFL. You know, this guy can play with the pads.
And it's not Olympic speed, right? But it's football speed, Jake. Football speed is different than Olympic speed. So we got to overlook that sometimes, right? Or we don't have to put so much into it. That 4.5, it might be a little slow, but he might be quicker than he is fast. He might be quicker to catch that football and separate, which is more important. You want a guy to catch the football, Jake, rather than run down the field and not even catch a lick, you know? So
No, I totally agree with you. And then number 5 is, so the last 2 years, this guy's season this past year is second, only behind my number 1 receiver, who I won't mention right now, second in EPA per game, and that is Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs might even be underrated at 5. I mean, he has an argument to be in the top 3. And I'm just saying, Buffalo better win, because you do not want that guy leaving. He is so good. And obviously Josh Allen helps, right? Having Josh Allen helps. But Stephon Diggs, I don't know how many guys we've seen that have had that meteoric of a rise. He was good on the Vikings, but I thought he was an overrated receiver by some people that were like, they wanted to put him up here. And I'm like, I don't see that. I think Thielen's better. But he goes to the Bills, and I'm like, what? Like, you know, he immediately ascended to the sky. You know, that's what they were hoping to get when they traded up to get Sammy Watkins at number 4 in the Aaron Donald draft. You know, and then this guy just absolutely, you know, tore the roof off. And it was one of the most balanced trades too, because, you know, the Vikings got Justin Jefferson, who ended up being number 2 for me. But number 4, Devontae Adams. Okay. We saw Devontae Adams leave Green Bay, leave Aaron Rodgers, go to the Raiders, bet on himself. And honestly, like, he's the same guy. It wasn't the Aaron Rodgers effect. You could argue it was one of his best seasons with Derek Carr. So you look at him and what he was able to do this past year. You know, he's 3rd in receiving, had 14 touchdowns. Just really impressed with him. And then number 3 is Tyreek Hill, who honestly has an argument to be number 2 or number 1. What Hill did leaving Patrick Mahomes, going to an environment with Tua Tagovailoa, and then he gets hurt. And again, it's the quarterback, like who's going to be our quarterback type of situation. So he was in kind of that roulette phase. And was this his best season this past year? I mean, I don't know if it was his best season, but it was up there. So he leaves the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks all time already, and the best quarterback in the NFL, and his numbers got better. Like, to me, I don't think people understand. If you're talking about the most dangerous receiver on the field, I don't care what you say. It's Tyreek Hill. That speed can't be matched. And he's just so good, like, just at everything, really. I mean, he's not like the best blocker in the world, but he's just so talented. And, you know, it's incredible what he was able to do, transforming how you had to, because we talked about it. Jalen Wall was already good. So then you put him with Tyreek Hill, and you're like, whoa. And then number 2, I have Justin Jefferson, who really he's the only one that I think is in the conversation with Cooper Kupp at this point. Justin Jefferson, for a lot of people, has already surpassed Cooper Kupp, and he had an 1,800-yard season, and I get that. My issue is in the big games, there were times where he just disappeared. Like, he had that sick catch against the Bills on one hand, and then the other, you know, he's getting shut down in another game.
Yeah.
That's why number 1's Cooper Kupp. When the best is required, Cooper Kupp steps up. Cooper Kupp had one of the greatest seasons, and maybe the greatest season. I'll say it. I think it was greater than Calvin Johnson's season. Now, to be fair, Calvin Johnson didn't play in the postseason, but he had a 2,200-yard season, like the most ever. He had 24 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, to see what he's done, coming from third rounder out of Eastern Washington, solid slot guy that, you know, could hit 1,000 yards, tears his ACL in 2019, gets faster post ACL tear, gets more explosive. And now we're talking about him like, I mean, that's the best combination in football is Stafford and Cooper Kupp when they are healthy. So, you know, I understand he got hurt. He missed half the season. He didn't come off of number 1, Cam. That season was too good for me. And I think when you look at Cooper Kupp, he was among the league leaders before he got hurt, even in that disastrous season.
Yeah, no, Cooper Kupp, he is someone to watch out for, to reckon with. I mean, the fact that he got MVP over Aaron Donald, I was hot, Jake. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I know he had Triple Crown winner, balled out. I didn't like it, but
I thought it should have been Stafford, but
yeah, he had Stafford balled out too. But you know, he had an unbelievable season, Jake. He had an unbelievable season, like you said. It's one for the record books that you can't really match up, right? You can't really match up. So a lot of respect to Cooper Kupp, but he's a little bit further down on my list, right? Last season, they had a tough year. He was their go-to guy, but I have some guys a little bit ahead of him. But going back to number 10 person, Jake, Garrett Wilson, right? Offensive rookie of the year. I think you can't ignore that. You know, we talk about this list. He has to be mentioned. He has to be mentioned just the type of year he had. He's about to get Aaron Rodgers, Jake. So he's number 10 now. He might not be on somebody's list at number 10, but guarantee he will probably jump up to that mid ranking, I would think, after this year. You got Aaron Rodgers, bro. Like, you know, you think about other quarterbacks or other wide receivers. Jamar Chase, he has Joe Burrow. Like, that's like it's you got T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. That's kind of unfair. So now Garrett Wilson's going to get that unfair thing, right? Where he's like, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. This is not fair. But JETS, just. Shout out to them for making that trade and really having a guy like Garrett Wilson go score touchdowns and Aaron Rodgers throw the ball to him. Next, CeeDee Lamb, Jake. CeeDee Lamb's coming off of a team that scores the most touchdowns in the league, the most points in the league. So he's on the receiving end of that, literally and figuratively. So CeeDee Lamb, like you mentioned, he's when he stepped up into the league, he's always been a presence there. He's always been someone to make those toe drag swag plays, the one hand, you know, pirouette spinning plays. He might be out of this list, Jake. I think outside of Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, he might be shooting Justin Jefferson too. He might be one of the players to watch that is more of a teach tape receiver. Like, if you want a teach tape receiver, you put in CeeDee Lamb. If you want a receiver that can also let's say blow the receiver game out of the water, like, hey, receivers aren't supposed to do that, I think he's that receiver as well. I think Stephon Diggs is more of that teach tape receiver. Hey, this is how you run the route. You know, this is that to perfection, similar to Cooper Kupp.
Sounds like you're talking about Keenan Allen, because that guy does not get enough credit. We also didn't mention him, but he's my God. Like, I wish he
Yeah.
could stay healthy because he is just so good. And I agree with you. Like, that's the thing that really stands out to me. Teach tape. Like, Lamb is such a good route runner, so precise, makes it so easy to get open. And then, the quarterback can just, it's pitch and catch at that point.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I did have our Chargers guys at the beginning honorable mention. So I showed him some love at the beginning.
Oh,
He
you
got
did. Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Yeah. Keenan
Okay.
Allen. Yeah, he got some love there. All good. 'Cause they go against the Rams all the time, right? It's a battle of LA. So a lot of respect to those guys. I know the 49ers don't really get much respect from you, Jake. But just kidding. All
Hey,
good.
CMC was number one.
That's true. Or running back. That's right. It's hard to be denied, right? It's hard to be denied when you're Christian McCaffrey. Next in line, you talk about CD Lamb making those teach tape plays and nice acrobatic plays. Jamar Chase is next for me, Jake. We talked about having Joe Burrow to throw the ball to, coming out of LSU, winning the national championship, and then finding that same synergy in the NFL. It's a storybook moment, and he's a storybook receiver. I mean, if you just check out his calf muscles, Jake, you turn on TV and just look at his calf muscles like, wait, why are your calf muscles that big? It's because he has jets in those things, my guy. Talk about a deep threat. Like, he's the person to take the top off. He's the person to come back and make those contested catches, 50-50 balls. Jamar Chase, he is that combination with T. Higgins. He's someone else that we, throw in honorable mentions. I know last year with everything that went down with the Buffalo Bills and everything like that, I know he has probably a lot on his heart and on his shoulders and on his chest. So hopefully this year, he can have a clean slate, Jake, because that was a lot for T. Higgins. But going back, Jamar Chase is my number 7 guy, or number 9 guy, 8 guy. And then next, we got Jalen Waddle, right? Waddle man. I think the biggest memory I have of him, like I said, is the national championship. He's hurt and he still wants to play. He still wants to go out there and ball. Mind you, he gets drafted in the first round. And then going to his draft day, right? When he gets drafted, he was so hyped. His family was clapping for him, and he got up and dipped right to the stage. So that he went viral in that moment. But Jalen Waddle is someone that stepped into the league and found immediate success, right? He has 2 to throw the ball to him. They both went to Alabama. So these guys already have that type of camaraderie, which is really cool. And Jalen Waddle, he can get busy, man. He can find those open lanes. He's more of a guy that if you put him in a slot, he's going to be a matchup nightmare for anybody and their mother. So Jalen Waddle, I got him lined up there. And then next, Jake, I have Stephon Diggs. So, Jake, I had the pleasure to work out with Stephon Diggs out in D.C., him and his brother. And when I say these guys were dunking the basketball, Jake, shooting the ball from freaking half court and it dropping in like layups, like their athletic ability is next level. Just everything that they do is like, whoa, that's nice. Like, let's go show somebody else because this is how they should do it. And so I would say these guys are perfectionists. One thing that I did see too, off the field, Stephon talked about being a billionaire. Like, that was his goal, to be a billionaire. And I thought that was really cool because his mind is set in other places. Hey, and you talked about if the Bills don't win, I'm gonna call it right now. Camp Stradamus, we're gonna see him in a Cowboys helmet. If the Bills don't win, we're gonna see him in a Cowboys helmet. He's gonna go play with his brother, like LeBron wants to play with his son. He's gonna go play with his brother, and he's gonna save a lot of money because number one, the Cowboys are gonna pay him, and there's no state income tax in Texas compared to New York. So I'm calling it right now.
Yeah,
I'm
don't
gonna see
remind me.
Stephon Diggs. Yeah, I live in California, so we're in the same boat.
yeah, and then some. No, I like that because I mean, and we're probably gonna piss off some Bills fans, but imagine him and CD Lamb on the same wide receiver room. Like, I mean, I guess that's having a little bit too much of something, but
I mean, at this point, yeah, Cowboys have a tight end to throw to now from the draft. So that I like that combination, Jake. I like that combination. There's other whole running backs in the backfield, a whole bunch of receivers lined up outside. So, you got the Jets. They got a crazy combination too with Lazard and Garrett Wilson. So they got an unfair matchup as well. So hey, line them up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, like why not? Why not? And then next I got Jacob, AJ Brown. We talked about AJ Brown making it to the Super Bowl. Like that's You got to throw him up there. You got to throw him up there. He made it to the Super Bowl. You mentioned the type of splash that he made, or the ripple effect he made in the league when he got to the Eagles. I think that was awesome to see. And then also to see him humble some of these receivers and some of these folks on Twitter, right? Like, I know he didn't win. I know that he didn't win the Super Bowl. I think he was going back and forth with some people, and he was letting them know, like, hey, I might not have won this game, but like, I'm here for a reason, right? And like, I'm gonna let people know, publicly, like, I'm not the one to be messed with. And I like that mentality, Jake. I like that dog mentality. So I'm glad the Eagles got him, and that he's one of the reasons why they got there. So shout out to him. I don't know, you had anything to say on our guy, AJ?
Yeah, no. Well, one thing I like about AJ is that he will play above the rim, and I think that's a little underrated in his game. Like, you could see at times, Jalen Hurts, maybe I don't want to. I want to tuck the ball and run. I have a lane, but I'm like, man, now I got AJ Brown, so I'm gonna throw it up there, and he'll go and get it.
Yep, he'll go get it. Double coverage, it don't matter. Like, he's gonna come down with that ball, I think, and he's really good in the red zone, Jake. In the red zone, find AJ Brown. Throw the ball to Devontae Smith to get there, but in the red zone, I'm looking for AJ at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
and he can help you in between the numbers too. So, he's not just a boundary deep threat where you just throw it up there. Like, he can that's what makes a receiver, in my opinion, like an elite receivers. Can you do everything, So that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. Can you be a utility player? Yeah. What does that look like? And next, Jake, I have Cooper Kupp. He's coming off of like you said, a historic season, a national world championship. I keep saying that, national championship, world championship. He's coming off a world championship, the MVP over Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford. So this year he could be right at number one, Jake. He's at number one on your list, I think, too. And last year, like you said, he got hurt. So, but he was on track to break the records the year before. So, I mean, he's just next level to get his gameplay. He can do it all. And what I love about him, though, is my man is humble, Jake. My man is just super low key. You talked about the schools he's come from, his background. He just low key and goes to work, does his job, and makes big plays. Like, that's what you can ask for in a football player. He's super smart. We talk about him breaking down plays, having that Sean McVay type memory where he's recalling different things and he's able to break the game down a different way. I'm excited to see, Jake, the rest of his career, what he's going to do.
You're talking about that Texans game. I know you are, because she came over and interviewed him, and he was like, yeah, you had a fire zone here, and then, I had the 3-man pushing through. I forget exactly what he said, but it was like, yeah. Just like having, well, and McVay always preaches the idea of being an extension of the coaching staff, because obviously the coaching staff can't be on the field. They're on the sidelines. And so, it was something I noticed and something I always valued about Peyton Manning and somebody like Peyton Manning, somebody like Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, even when you have that many guys on the field that are like another coach, it really helps you out. And so just that much football intelligence on one field, you can only win with.
Yeah, it's only dubs. And what helps with receivers is a lot of times they're the last ones to get lined up. So if you have a receiver that's like a coach on the field, he's like, hey, young guy, like, stand over here, like, oh, stand over there, right? And so he's able to support the quarterback. The quarterback can focus on the lineman. Maybe the center can help out as well, but then having him on the outside to relay those messages is that much more effective. And I think the first person I think of course, Tom Brady, who's one of the smarter guys. You think about LeBron James, who they just know what's going to happen before it happens. But Luke Kuechly is my favorite person.
Yeah.
To think about when you talk about seeing it before it happens, right? You're not the deja vu aspect where he's calling out runs over here and everyone's tuned in, the fans are tuned in, and like you go and make a play and you play that, but they play that much faster. Cooper Kupp has that ability. So,
yeah, and we wished him a happy birthday a few episodes ago. So
exactly, our guy Luke, and then Cooper Kupp, all world talent. Like I said, I'm excited to see what he's going to do, and that goes to show as well the draft. You can't have the draft put a ceiling on your success in the league, because my guy, like you said, could be number one. He's number one on your list. He could be number one. So
he ran a 4.62. I don't care about the 40 time. Jerry Rice. What everyone always brings up Jerry Rice. Didn't he run like a 4.75 or something like that? I mean, I don't know. 40 time that's great. That's how fast I am if Michael Myers is chasing after me. But
right.
But like the point is like 40 time is what you are without pads on. It's just how you are. Like that's only good if you want to race somebody or somebody's chasing after you.
Yeah, if you're in the Olympics, like that's if you have a good 40
Or
time,
yeah, or
you
in the
get the blocks
Olympics.
fast.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit less grim there. Like, yeah, the Olympics, maybe not the murder type or anything like that. But no, like the whole point of that is like when you put the pads on, if you're not running what I saw you run at the combine, I'm going to have to assume that the reason you're playing slow is because you don't have it up here. And that immediately, that's why, like, honestly, the combine can low key raise some red flags for me when I'm doing my evaluation. So, yeah, speed is speed. Long speed with shorts and a t-shirt on is not everything.
No, it's not. I think a lot of times when you look at the 40 and the 10-yard split, I think I won't say it's more important than a 40, but that 10-yard split, a lot of times that's where football is within that first 10 yards. You can win or lose within that first 10 yards. And even sooner than that, Jake. And so I think that's way more important than having that long speed. And a lot of times the track guys have that long speed. They run that 4.3, but a lot of times they can't catch. They can't catch shit, Jake, because they're moving so fast. They don't know how to really break things down and make it make sense. So Cooper Kupp running a 4.6, but top of the league. Come on, man.
I know. It's pretty crazy. I mean, and keep in mind, when you look at like the top guys last year, it's like you don't see any like 6'5" guys. You know, the top receivers, Justin Jefferson is what, 6'2", 6'3". Like, okay, you know, but Tyreek Hill, 5'10", you know, Devontae Adams is what, 6'1", you know, AJ Brown, 6 feet, Stephon Diggs, 6 feet, CeeDee Lamb is 5'11", 6 feet, you know, Jalen Waddle's definitely not. Like, he's 6 feet or shorter.
Probably like 5'9", 5'10".
Devontae Smith, maybe 6 feet. So I think he's really
slim.
You know, Terry McLaurin, 5'11", right? Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown is, I think, the tallest, right? Because he's 6'4", I think it is.
Yeah.
He's either 6'4" or 6'1". I'm probably butchering that. He is 6 feet. So that's everyone, you know, it's funny, everyone talks about, oh, like, I remember when it was such a big deal. Like, everybody in Madden wants their 6'5" receiver, just throw it up to you because it's a video game. But I mean, I was looking and like over the years, it's like the shorter receivers win because it's all about route running in this league. And what I noticed, and I changed kind of my evaluation process, is when I'm looking at receivers in the draft, I'm like, this guy's not separating. And that's a problem to me. Like, but if he doesn't separate, how is he in contested catch situations? And if he's not good at that, then why are we hyping him up? And most notably comes to mind is, I don't know if you remember when N'Keal Harry was drafted by the Patriots. I couldn't understand it because I was like, he doesn't separate. That's not going to get better when you leave college and go to the NFL. So I was like, Patriots had a chance to go out and get DK Metcalf, who we've already mentioned, and they chose to get N'Keal Harry, and it just didn't work out. And I think the signs were there all along. Harry is a good college wide receiver, but that's what he was. He wasn't a first-round talent, and it blew up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had that long speed of fast. You know, he was fast, and people were like, "Oh, let's sign it."
He was like a 4.5, you know, 4.53. I mean, not like slow game speed, right? But when you don't have that, like the craziest line of scrimmage, you know, footwork was Michael Thomas, who I guess we could throw a mention in there because Michael Thomas has one of the greatest seasons of all time, and then dealt with injuries, and then fell off the face of the earth, but Michael Thomas, watching him out of Ohio State, the guy had some of the best footwork I've ever seen for a receiver. I mean, it just like he would just school guys off the line of scrimmage. And that translates. And I feel like footwork matters. But then if you're not great at the line of scrimmage, you're not done as long as you can get off the line of scrimmage, and then your quick, you know, your quick twitch ability. Can you stop on a dime? I'm not talking about, you know, stop in slowly coming to, no. Can you stop on a literal dime? Because the guy that's going against you has, you know, what, a 1.49 10-yard split. So he's very explosive. And then he's got the 4.3 speed to carry you up the, you know, the top of the you know, so it's like, you got to be able to combat that.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about someone who can stop on a dime. At my number 3, Jake, I got Devontae Adams. I think he was talking to Brandon Marshall on the I Am Athlete podcast, and he talked about how he never wants defensive backs, right, to know that they won. Even though the ball gets thrown another way, he said he snaps it off in a different way, and he said he puts on that Terminator mask. You know, when he gets up to a guy, he runs a couple different routes or a couple different concepts, and And it was just like, he was like, if this guy leans this way, I'm gonna switch that way. If he leans this way, I'm gonna go this way, but still finish the route that was called. So to hear about his preparation, I mean, Brandon Marshall was blown away when he heard that. But to hear about his preparation, to hear about the way he attacks the game mentally, that only matches up to what we see on the field. And he's the captain of his team, Jake. So he's someone that when he goes somewhere, he immediately has that effect. He's a leader. Not only in the wide receiver this wide receiver list, but in any team he goes to. So you mentioned right the Aaron Rodgers effect. Does that make him who he is? But he's that guy. He's him. So Devontae Adams, he's number 3 on my list, and he can easily jump up even higher, Jake, after this year. You know, you never know. He has Jimmy G now, so
we don't know who he has now because Jimmy G apparently is banged up. Maybe you might see your guy Aiden O'Connell. Maybe he might get traded. We have no idea.
At this point, who knows? But just know Devontae Adams is going to be catching that football and score some touchdowns. So Devontae Adams, I got him as my number 3. And then number 2, Jake, I got Tyreek Hill. Like, come on, man. The cheetah, right? He went to Miami. He got his dollars up, right? No state income tax. He got more money. He got paid, and he cranked them stats up too, Jake. You just mentioned that, you know, even though he got hurt, he might have had one of his better careers of his year. You know, I will say that being on a Super Bowl championship team, that's, you know, I think he crushed it there as well. You know, I'll never forget, Jake, playing against Tyreek Hill. You mentioned one of the most dangerous receivers that steps on the field. And I have to totally agree with you because not only is he a crazy receiver, but a punt returner as well, a returner. I might have mentioned this story to you, but, you know, on the punt team, I'm on this side of the punt team, and we're punting the ball on this side of the field. And the goal for our punter was to, hey, pin him down the corner so we can go get him, right? You know, you're just kind of like you're trying to trap like a lizard or something. It's like, hey, let's like put him in the corner. And so, but we knew as the punt team, I'm on this side. I'm like, hey, once this ball is kicked in this corner, let's run immediately this way, because once Tyreek catches the football, he's going to stem people a little bit forward, and then he's going to immediately jet over here. And if our first step is not this way and it's like inside, he's going to beat us. So you never forget just how dangerous he is. And by the time we get down the field, Jake, 40, 50 yards, Tyreek Hill is right around where we said he would be. And thankfully we kind of corralled him and got him down. But he's dangerous, Jake. He's dangerous anywhere he goes. We know what he can do on the football field, right? We see it. We see some of the routes, some of the improvisation that he's made, even with Patrick Mahomes, right? We see some of the championship games where he's running banana routes that are breaking the seams and then hitting the sideline. And Patrick Mahomes is like, hey, Tyreek is down there, just throw it. So he's number 2, Jake. He's number 2, one of the most dynamic receivers that we can see. And then my number 1, Justin Jefferson, Jake. I mean, breaking Randy Moss's record. I mean, Randy Moss is my favorite receiver, Jake, playing Madden growing up. So finally there's someone in those shoes that can compete in a similar fashion. I'm not going to say the same fashion because Randy Moss is Randy Moss, but in a similar fashion, Jake, to see him battle, I would say in between the lines is insane. To see him line up in different places on the football field is kind of crazy. Like you see him line up over here, you see him line up in the slot, behind the tackle to then run in motion. Like they use him in so many different ways, and he's that effective. And one other thing too, just looking at the top 100 players, right, of the year. I know we mentioned that list is coming out soon, but a lot of those lists from last year or some like pre-lists, Justin Jefferson is at the top of mostly everybody's list. And that's kind of crazy to me. And so he's my number 1 because he's super productive. He's going to be eclipsing Randy Moss pretty soon here. You know, 100-yard receiving games. He's just that guy, and I want him at number 1. And there's other guys on this list that can definitely jump him, but I got Justin Jefferson as my number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp are 1, 2 for me. I mean, I have Cooper Kupp and you have Justin Jefferson, and you have a couple of lower. And I mean, it's kind of it really, like we talked about, it really depends on like how you view him after last year. My issue with Justin Jefferson is that you see those games like when he was needed, you know. The 4 for 38, the 1 catch for 15, the 7 for 45, the 3 for 33, the 3 for 14 week 3 against the Lions. I need you. Your best is required in those games. Against the Eagles, 6 for 48, you know. I think what Justin Jefferson is he has a chance to be the greatest receiver of all time.
Mm.
He does. He really has a shot. But my concern is that he's very splashy, is that he has a giant game. He only had one game last year where he had multiple touchdowns, which is kind of interesting. But he had, a 223-yard game, with 11 receptions. They lost that game by 11 to the Lions. And he didn't find the end zone. And my point is that, he's got like those big games, but in those big games, it's like I would be fine if you didn't have 200 yards and instead you had 100 yards like 3 games in a row instead of having 200 and then the next game you have 45 yards. So I think I want to see more consistency out of Justin, but I think he is a phenomenal talent, and it's not me hating, because I think he's phenomenal, and I think he has a chance to be the greatest receiver of all time.
Yeah, I think also too, when you're that dangerous, Jake, like the boys gonna be at you. I mean, they putting 2 to 3 people on you. And what I would like to see this year, like you mentioned, last year his numbers weren't that great. Maybe he can get some love this year.
Well,
Maybe he can get some love.
He went over 1,800 yards, so I don't want to say his numbers weren't great. I'm saving you right now. You are going to get flamed for that. So just know that Cam is not saying his numbers weren't great. It's that the consistency factor, like I brought up.
Yeah. So,
okay.
With the Vikings in what they've done last year, the receiver room is decent. But this year, they got some help. They got some help, Jake. And I do think you talk about some of those games where I feel like he wasn't consistent. You got Jordan Addison out of USC. So I think not only is he going to have those 2,000-yard seasons, but I do think he's going to have a chance to not get triple teamed as much, right? Like some of those games where he didn't score, some of those games where we felt like his yards weren't up there. Like, what was the defense looking like? Like, I'm sure the Eagles, I'm sure Slay, I'm sure everybody named Mama was, hey, cover Jefferson. This year, they got Addison to worry about. So I think we're going to find more consistency, and I think we're going to find a number one Justice Jefferson again.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know how much you can blame him for the postseason, because they lost that game 31-24 to the Giants, the first round. I don't know if that's him or Kirk Cousins, because we know Kirk Cousins struggles in the postseason. 7 catches for 47 yards, though. Like, I need my guy. And that's where, like, I've seen Cooper Kupp just step up. And we saw it in the Super Bowl. We saw it, against Tampa. We saw it against the 49ers. I mean, he was his best when his best was required. And I think that's a big thing that you need to see. And so, at the end of the day, if Justin Jefferson gets that consistency, he's not going to be able to be stopped. And I think also it was year one. He had year one. I don't want to get too hard on him, because year one he had 1,800 yards in a brand new offense. So we'll see what happens in that same offense. Same with Cousins. Maybe Cousins, who I thought would have been better. Maybe he's able to improve his play with KOC, but yeah, I definitely don't want it to take away from his ability. I'm just saying as to why when you're trying to split hairs, you have to be a little picky. And I could be very picky, because I think Cooper Kupp's the best blocking wide receiver in the league. So when you look at Cooper Kupp's body of work, and you're just talking from a standpoint of who's the better receiver, like that's why I had Cooper Kupp ahead of him. And I think like Tyreek Hill, Tyreek Hill can't block like Cooper Kupp. Tyreek Hill is another one of those splashy players, but I think he's a little bit more consistent. Didn't have as many yards, per se, but I think he's a little bit more consistent than Justin Jefferson. It's going to be really fascinating though, because Justin Jefferson now is getting a full year with Addison and the Hawkinson trade last year. Now, Hawkinson almost had 1,000 yards. I don't think we talk about that enough, but he almost had 1,000 yards last year, and I think that's going to bode well for him.
Yeah, and I liked, you mentioned 2 people. You mentioned Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. I like their star power too, Jake. I like what they bring to the table. Cooper Kupp, he has that star power. Justin Jefferson started a dance that the NFL now has licensed, right, to like share the Fortnite. Like they have a different type of stardom and power, I think, that they bring to a team. I think Cooper Kupp, yes, like his numbers are excellent, but I think Tyreek Hill also, like, if I know I'm gonna play with a Tyreek Hill, Jake, like I'm hype. I know Cooper Kupp the same, but like you're playing with the cheetah, like someone who threw up the peace sign that's changing the culture of the game. Justin Jefferson, they're changing the culture of the game. Cooper Kupp is, but I think these two guys, I think they have, like I said, just that international superpower that I think bodes well, not only with their numbers and their stats, but also business wise as well. I think their jersey sales, right? We talk about how much people are spending to buy their jerseys versus a Cooper Kupp versus a Stephon Diggs. Like, I think these guys are crushing it. So, that's my last on that. But I know we got a birthday segment coming up soon too.
Yeah, and I think I can't stress enough. It's personal opinion. It's
Facts,
preference.
facts.
I think it's like fantasy football.
Yeah.
I'll go for the guy that's going to get me 15 a week over the guy that's going to get me 4 and then 44. 1 week, because the week I get 4 might be
Consistent.
in the championship, right? But the week I get 44 might be against the worst team in the league. So, and to be fair, also I want to bring up real quick. Tyreek Hill also has that same issue. Like, I don't want to, make this too one-sided against Justin Jefferson. 23, 55, 69, 47, 33. I mean, that's just last year alone for Tyreek Hill. Had, some games where he wasn't as consistent. So, that's what I'll say about that. But happy birthday, special happy birthday to former Chicago Bears lifer and Hall of Fame linebacker Brian Urlacher. He turns 45 today, and he was really good at, doing the thing that you did.
One of my favorites, along with Ray Lewis and Luke Kuechly, those 3, my favorites.
He just, 4-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. Did I mention he's a Hall of Famer as well? Defensive Player of the Year. He had a Rookie of the Year on that. He played 13 years in Chicago, 180 games, over 1,300 tackles, 11 forced fumbles, 22 interceptions, 90 pass breakups.
Wow.
Dude's a legend.
Yeah, the dude's a legend.
He's one of the greatest to ever play that position, period.
Yeah, period. That's a full stop there. You put him in the top 5 of linebackers ever. He will be in there for sure. Brian Urlacher, watched his tape growing up. Whenever I would prepare for games, watch his tape. So
I had his jersey.
Yeah.
As a little kid, I found it in the Lost and Found. No one claimed it. So, I ended up claiming it because I was like, I like Urlacher. So I never bought his jersey, but I had it as a little kid. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Be Eric Urlacher. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is going to do it. Next week, we will get started with our tight ends. Then we'll move into the offensive line. Then we're on the defense, your favorite. So
let's go.
That's going to do it. For Jake Ellenbogen, he is Cameron Lynch. You can follow me at JK Bogan. You can follow Cameron Lynch at Cameron Lynch 50. You can follow the show at Off the Edge Show on Twitter. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, and we'll see you guys very soon. Later, folks.